All right, welcome into another Best Ball Sunday episode of the Fantasy 4-Pack. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale, Frankie Santiago, bringing you that spicy, fresh Best Ball content like we're committed to doing. We are going to be doing the Best Ball Mania showdown this week over there on Underdog. So the $25 one with the big $200K grand prize for that one. So if you're looking for a way to win some big money on fantasy football for a not so big entry fee, that seems to be the way to do it. We haven't jumped into the lobby yet, so we're still waiting for it to fill up to get our draft positions. But when it does, we'll make sure to let you guys know where we're drafting. A little bit of news before we jump into before the lobby fills up though. First off, not so much fantasy news because are supposedly very treatable, but Ron Rivera has a form of lymph node cancer. Terrible to hear, but glad to hear that it seems like it's pretty treatable. He's not going to be, at least at this time, not going to be stepping away from football for it. So get well soon, Ron. Hopefully he can make some sweet magic with that Washington team over there. Help Terry develop into a good wide receiver. Nick Chubb, more good news, out of the concussion protocol. We all expect it to be a short stint, but it's always nice to see that it actually is what is happening. So draft Nick Chubb with all the same confidence you had before. And I'll just do all the good news before we get to the more bad news for the news. Damian Harris drawing rave reviews out of New England camp. Legitimate chance that he goes into the season as the RB1 now for the Patriots with Sony and Lamar sidelined.
Yeah, he should be shooting up draft boards. Not super high, but definitely higher than his undrafted position.
Well, he's not undrafted anymore. He's moved into like the 12th round, 11th round. I was going
to say the undrafted position he had at the beginning of August, rather.
But he's definitely someone to keep your eye on, especially if you go running back light in the first couple rounds, because you can get him fairly late in drafts. And if he's going to have at least the starting hold on that job, I'm interested in Damian Harris. And then the last bit of good news, looks like Sanders should be ready for Week 1 per Tim McManus from ESPN. He's saying that the Eagles are expecting Sanders to be ready to suit up for Week 1. So it sounds like his injury shouldn't be too severe, and we get to look forward to seeing a season full of what he can do.
Yeah, like I said, I was hoping it would be a little bit longer, so maybe that ADP could get a little bit depressed, but maybe this news leaks out a little slow, because it did take me a bit to just find that one, but it's good to hear that a stud player is going to be able to go for Week 1.
Yeah, you want to be able to start your studs. So that's some nice assurance for people who've already drafted or people who have their drafts coming up, knowing that they can safely draft Miles Sanders. And now to the less good news. Darrell Henderson of the Rams has a low-grade hammy strain. They're saying that Week 1 may be in doubt for him. Darrell Henderson, he's not being taken particularly high, but he is someone who is being drafted in the later rounds of drafts, so that's a little bit of a knock on him if you were hoping that he sort of steals that job, and maybe a little bit of a boost for Cam Akers, as it did seem like Cam and Darrell were the two that were sort of competing for that 1A role in LA. So nice bump for the rookie. Hopefully it's not too impactful for Darrell, so that he can get back out there and do some good stuff too. I'd like to see one of the two of them win that job, I think. And then for all you carry-on truthers out there looking at you, Vitale, Deandre Swift, he's hurt. He hasn't practiced for 2 straight days. And Matt Patricia is not commenting on the nature of the injury. So generally, when a coach is dodging questions about an injury, I take that to not be a good sign.
It's never good.
Hopefully it's not too severe, because I thought Swift was a pretty talented guy coming out of college. I was excited to see he could do in the NFL. But if you are a believer in one Kerryon Johnson, this is music to your ears.
I would say this is whoever the third stringer is out there. I would go ahead and pick them up on in all your leagues.
Yeah, I don't know if they're that deep or that skilled of a team where I want the third guy. I just want whoever's number 1, if there is going to be a clear-cut number 1. This is not how I want Kerryon to take the job, but I will take opportunity where I can get it as a Kerryon owner in Dynasty. But yeah, keep a close eye on this one, because this one sounds like with the later start for the NFL season, Miles, almost called Miles Sanders, Swift might be back and ready to go for week 1, or it could just be a week or two where he's off. So temper expectations with this one, but do keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I mean, it's not doom and gloom, because if it was, I feel like if it was something like season ending, it would have been announced already. But I generally don't regard it as a good thing if the coach is dodging questions. So definitely a wait and see. Keep a close eye on that, especially if you're considering drafting that backfield. All right, looks like we're still waiting on a few for this lobby to fill up. So I think we will circle back around and join you all again once this lobby is filled. But before we do, as always, if you like what we're bringing to you for these videos, if you're enjoying watching them and hearing our beautiful voices, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that notification bell, share our stuff. It helps us, be able to put out more content for you guys. And make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as well. All right, and the lobby is finally full here. Vitali's will be drafting out of the 3-hole, Frankie out of the 5-hole, and me out of the 6-hole. So Frankie is once again nice and sandwiched between us.
At least I got a top half pick.
You did. We all got top half picks in this one. I can't wait to steal lots of picks from you, Frankie.
Yeah.
Any quick thoughts from you guys before this starts? I know we have 10 seconds left.
No, I love the 3 spot. I'm getting somebody elite, and given that I'm not a huge fan of McCaffrey, I'm getting one of the 2 guys I think are the top 2 guys between Saquon and Zeke.
Sure.
So I'm happy with this, and I'm expecting pretty chalk here to go McCaffrey, Saquon, and then me with Zeke. So
I think that's the nice thing about 3-2. If you don't like McCaffrey, is not only are you still getting the guy you want, but then you have a better pick on the turnaround also.
Yeah, I'm not super mad about 5. We'll see how it goes in the later rounds. I like it in the early rounds, but we'll see how this plays out.
Just like I said, right there, CMC, Saquon, Zeke. This is where it's. I think once you hit 4 or 5, that's where the picks can get a little nebulous, where you're trying to figure out, do you want Kamara or Cook, Henry or CEH?
It's less like of a preordained pick order.
All right. Derrick Henry. All right, so walk me through why you chose Henry over Cook and CEH. Is that going to be a popular decision people have to make this year?
Over CEH, I just the experience with Henry. CEH isn't a good offense, but we don't really know what he's going to be yet. I think he has a really safe floor, but we pretty much know what we're getting with Henry. And Henry over Dalvin because, again, this is the season where you want to draft for that safety more than anything else. And Dalvin, he's always had those injury problems. I don't think it's going to be a volume issue, but just all around, I think Henry's the better pick there.
And for you, where you had Dalvin and CEH, I thought Dalvin would be your pick there.
So in this particular draft, I'm going to be going for a Chiefs stack. In order to do that, I have to take CEH or Tyreek Hill in the first round. Obviously, I'm not taking Tyreek Hill at 6. So I'm going to take CEH at 6. And then on the turnaround, I'm hopefully going to be able to draft Travis Kelce. And in the third, I'm going to try and get Mahomes. 6 is one of the spots where I have a legitimate chance of being able to do that. So I'm trying to capture as much of the upside of that Chiefs offense as I can here. And to do that, I have to start off with the Chiefs players in the first 3 rounds. So in worst case scenario for me too, if the stack doesn't work out, because obviously I can't just force people to pick who I want them to pick, so it comes to me. If the stack doesn't work out, I still have a very good player in CEH, the very high ceiling, who should get me a lot of value in best ball. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad if he ends up being a standalone player, and I'm even less mad if I get to pair him with his quarterback. So I'm only 4 picks away right now from getting to see if I get to continue my bid for that Chiefs stack, but it's going to be tough because Travis Kelce is projected to go in those next 3 picks. So
yeah, so far it's been pretty chalk. I think the only thing that's been a little bit different than drafts I've seen is Michael Thomas falling all the way to 10.
I've actually got him there a couple times so far. It's one thing I've noticed with Underdog. The drafters and Underdog seem to be pretty savvy. You're not you don't get to take advantage of as much of, I guess, the like casual player stupidity, I'll say, in Underdog as we saw on Yahoo, just because it seems like the people that are doing best ball, especially best ball, maybe not this early anymore, but best ball earlier on, generally people who are pretty in the know with the, and there goes
that's
Travis
tough.
Kelce right before my pick. That's fine. I'm not mad. Just disappointed. I'm gonna grab a guy that I generally am not able to get very much of anyway. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and take George Kittle. It doesn't really help my stack, but I don't think I actually have any shares of Kittle yet this year, because he's generally going in a spot where I can't draft him. So I'll get myself a little bit of Kittle, try and capture that difference maker at tight end, and now I can focus more drafting other positions, because I'm probably going to draft one more tight end just to cover for any fluky down games or bye weeks that Kittle has.
Yeah. I didn't really like James Conner there, so I am going to go ahead and just pick up my Frank favorite Aaron Jones.
Frankie, you don't have to make excuses for why you drafted Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I just basically assumed that he was gone as soon as I knew that Ian wasn't going to take him. Well, actually, when you first said a guy you don't get a lot of shares of, I was actually thinking you might go.
Yeah, I was
with,
thinking that as well.
There, but I'm fine with seeing James Conner go there. I think that's a little bit too expensive. I'll just go ahead and take a wide receiver here, and I'll just go ahead and lock up Chris Godwin, who I think is a great floor this year.
And at 210, that's good value.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'll probably readdress running back at my third pick, because I think a lot of these guys are going to have a similar thing where they're going to go wide receiver, maybe like wide receiver quarterback or wide receiver and a running back. So there should be somebody at my third pick who I feel comfortable grabbing. I still think it's going to be a little bit of a reach, but that's kind of what you have to do when you're in the ends of your draft. You have to just take what you want.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's pretty much the top 4 picks. You can't always really go by ADP unless you're really willing to gamble. That's what it is. If you're trying to play the ADP game, you're gambling. Whereas if you're in those picks where they're like the rollover, the pseudo rollover, you just have to grab the guys that you believe in and go. Otherwise, you'll end up with a team that's might be stacked at one position, but you're not going to be happy with how it looks after the draft.
Yeah, there I'm just going to go with Gurley. I think
Sure.
he has the best upside of that group. And I like a lot of these wide receivers right here, but I just didn't want to go double wide receiver this early.
I mean, as far as upside goes, I think Jonathan Taylor probably has more upside than he does, but Gurley offers good upside while also, at least he should be safer than a lot of them. Like, you have to believe that Gurley is safer than Melvin Gordon or Leonard Fournette. Maybe not safer than David Johnson, but definitely safer than Le'Veon Bell. I mean, there's a lot of unsexy names in like the 3rd and early 4th round that really make you. The more I've been drafting, I've been shying away from running backs in the 3rd round, honestly, because they all just seem to have like this really bad taste. Frank, who are you taking here, by the way?
I'm gonna go ahead and take a wide receiver, and maybe work on a mini stack. Just pick up Amari here.
Sure.
Hopefully get Dak a little bit later. If not, I mean, I'm not too broken up about it. I just like to have at least that wide receiver 1 quarterback for, at least some of my best ball shares.
So I was able to get Mahomes at 3-6, so I do still have a pseudo chief stack working here. I think that CEH is one of the few running backs in the league that you can legitimately stack with a quarterback because of how involved he should be in the passing game. It's probably him and Kamara as far as like people that I would legitimately try and stack with their quarterback. And then now that I have Mahomes in later rounds, I'm probably going to try and grab at least one of Mecole Hardman or Sammy Watkins, just to sort of round that out a little bit with some of Mahomes' other passing options.
So you didn't want to try and go for that hot Eckler stack with Tyrod Taylor?
As much as I think that Tyrod Taylor is going to light the fantasy world on fire, I want no part of Los Angeles. Well, it's not that Los Angeles team. I love the other one for best ball. I think I have probably 4 or 5 best ball teams now that are Rams super stacks where I have Kupp, Woods, Higbee, and Everett. So I think the Rams are one of my favorite teams to try and super stack in best balls because of how attainable their stack is. I mean, you don't to get a Rams stack, you don't have to use a pick on anyone higher than like 4th round. You can go 4th, 5th, 8th, 10th, 13th, and you have a Ram stack right there. So it really frees you up to grab people at other positions too. It doesn't kind of hand. That's one reason I've shied away from the Chief stack to this point, but I needed to get at least one share of it. Is you have to pay out the nose to get the Chief stack. It's expensive.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why I always like those mid-tier, mid-round stacks like your Calvin Ridley's into Matt Ryan. But Matt Ryan's price has been climbing a bit lately. But Jared Goff is a very sexy stack for a non-stack, a guy who doesn't really go for the stack much. He's the Rams are very attainable.
Yeah, and they throw a lot. I mean, they're what, the second highest volume throwing offense in the league last season. Like, I'll take that. I don't care. Jared Goff is I love that he's a not sexy name. It makes it really easy for me to get him.
Yeah, I think that the fact that didn't make the playoffs last year really helped with his whole stock this year.
Oh, people hate anything to do with Jared Goff now. I love it.
Yeah, I mean they didn't have a bad record. They were 9-7. They threw the ball a lot. Like I think that they're a very slept on offense as far as fantasy goes.
So I'm going to take my first wide receiver here. I'm actually going to take a guy that I was just talking about with Cooper Kupp. I love that he fell to this point. He's another guy who I haven't been getting a lot of, just because I've been taking his counterpart a lot. And generally, Kupp's been going before Woods. But to me, I'm not mad if I get either of them. So if I can lock down Kupp at 4-7, I'll take that every day of the week. Frankie, what are you looking at here?
As running backs are shooting off the board, I am going to reach quite a bit and grab Mark Ingram here.
You're not going to get Melvin Gordon?
No, I like Mark Ingram a
Interesting.
lot. Like I said, I didn't think he was going to be there my next pick, so it's kind of one of those things where I don't have a lot of shares of him, and I do want to own him in a lot of these best ball leagues because, I mean, that running offense is...
See, I think Melvin Gordon is... There was a little bit of bad news when it came out of Broncos camp, and I feel like it's affecting his value way too much. I mean, there's no reason that Melvin Gordon should be going this late in drafts. He's a fantastic value at 410.
Yeah, I was planning around him not being there. He's a guy I've shied away from early in the season, but as the team has clearly moved to it, instead of a 3-headed monster, at least a 2-headed monster pair with him being the lead dog for the groundwork, I'm more interested in them because I believe that offense is going to have some good work. With that pick, I was looking at, do I want to go Tyler Lockett and then try and grab David Montgomery in the 5th?
Yep.
I knew Melvin Gordon was going to be there, so I wanted to try and get a guy I don't have as much shares in and go with him there, and then try and get a receiver I like, which I think there are a lot more of at this 5-3. So, and like I said, Lockett's still there, and he made it back to me, so that one's there. So honestly, between these picks, if Lockett was there, I was probably going to go Sutton. David Montgomery is still staring me in the face, and I hate to let him go, but I'm already three running backs deep, and I need some wide receivers. I'll go ahead and take Lockett here, who I hope the injury was more of why he was lacking production last year. And I think, like I said, they keep saying they want to pound the rock, but I think the Seahawks, if they want to win, they're going to have to start using their Hall of Famer quarterback.
I mean, they've won in the past with pounding the rock. It's a strategy that has yet to fail them.
Right.
Frankie, what are you looking at here at 5-5?
Well, since I took my running back last round, I'm going to go ahead and grab another wide receiver here, Courtney Sutton.
Sure.
I do like where he's going.
I mean, I got to say I love that because that means that I get David Montgomery.
Yeah, again, not super big on Montgomery. I mean, I'm kind of lukewarm on him. I don't hate him, but I would rather have Mark Ingram. That's why I kind of passed on him to just pick up the guy I liked.
So for me, it's all the price point. I don't love Montgomery, but I love where he's going. Like, I'm fine with getting a 250-plus carry back in the 5th round. Like, Montgomery's not a sexy name, but for where he's going, like it's hard to pass up that value. It's it's like a buy one get one at like Papa John's or something. Like, you're never excited to eat Papa John's, but if you're getting 2 pizzas for the price of one, like, heck, why not?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that's why in my review for why I love David Montgomery, I basically equated him to broccoli. People, you're not. He is a good staple for your fantasy team, but people don't want to include him because there's flashier names like Kareem Hunt and Devontae Parker, all these other guys are going around that have these flash and what's their upside? But David Montgomery, he's gonna anchor your team so well this year.
Yeah, I don't mind especially with my first running back, be a little bit more of a flashy guy in CEH, where his range of outcomes is bigger. I think both towards the floor and towards the ceiling. I don't mind having a little bit more of a steady Eddie guy in Dave Montgomery to give me consistent fantasy points on a week in, week out basis. All right, so who are we coming up on here? Next up is going to be me again in 5 picks now. And running backs are still flying off the board, which I don't love. I was really hoping that some of these guys were going to slip down to my pick, but the air's getting a little thin.
Yeah.
I might end up having to take a wide receiver here or really reach on a running back because most of the guys that I would generally be looking at in this range are
All
going earlier than I generally see them going. Also, kind of the downside of taking a QB in the 3rd round, it locks in probably the highest end stack you can get in the league in the Chiefs, but the opportunity cost of getting it can be a bit high sometimes. In a draft like this where running backs have been going even faster than running backs typically go.
Yeah, that's why for at least a moment I was actually thinking of taking David Montgomery out there and going to 4 running backs, but I feel like the loss at wide receiver would be too great, so I just stuck with my 3 and kept moving on. Because that's why I want to go so heavy in those first 3 rounds, because you couldn't be in a situation like this where in the 6th you're looking at backup running backs across the board, and there's just nothing left for starting guys, and you're only in the 6th.
Yeah, I'll take J.K. Dobbins there. As far as backups go, I really like J.K. I mean, the Ravens we've talked about before, they're a very run-heavy team. I like him for a lot of the same reasons I like Mark Ingram, because obviously we know that Mark Ingram isn't going to be a back that just eats up all of the touches in that backfield. And I think the touches that don't go to Ingram or Lamar are going to go to Dobbins.
Yeah, 100%.
So Dobbins might not have the same ceiling that Mark Ingram has, but I think he's going to be good enough to turn in, flex to running back 2 value a lot of weeks, which is good enough for me. I mean, it's another one of those things where it kind of just gives me like a nice little floor where he might not win me a lot of weeks, but he might stop me from coming in last in some weeks. And then you took Dak there, Frankie. Yeah, I think that was too early to go with I guess you said you were trying to go for that.
Yeah, I'm going for like a mini stack with him, Amari, Blake Jarwin, maybe CD Lamb.
So were you sad that you missed out on Michael Gallup?
Or
were you not going to take him?
Not super. I mainly wanted to go for Amari and him with Jarwin later. But
sure.
If
Jarwin's a super affordable tight end.
If I got Gallup, I wouldn't be mad. But I think that at that point, I needed to get a 3rd running back.
So who are you looking at 7-3 here, Vitali, with your pick coming up?
All right, so my team's all balanced out now with a 3-3.
It is
running back and wide receiver. I was considering going quarterback here. I know I'm not going to get Russell Wilson if I want to take him now. I'm not sure if I want to trade in him or go for the upside of a guy like, if he makes it to me, Deontay Johnson or some of these other guys, maybe even a tight end like Darren Waller, who I think is a great target hog.
I mean, in the 7th round, you could do a lot worse than Darren Waller, too.
Yeah.
He has an ADP of early 5th, so you're getting a 2-round discount on him here.
Yeah, honestly, this pick is between, now that I'm more looking at it, it's between Waller and Russell for me, and I think I'm going to, even though I would love the stack, I'm going to go for Waller here just to kind of give me the amount of volume I'm going to get, and I'll go for maybe a stack with, Tom Brady later for him and Godwin. And try and grab one of those, maybe grab Gronk late, and just get like a cheap 3 stack there.
So you're not worried by the news that it seems like Gronk is the 3rd tight end in that Buccaneers system? I mean, me personally, because I have done some Buccaneers stacks with Best Ball. I've been avoiding Mike Evans, but I've been grabbing Chris Godwin and then O.J. Howard and Ronald Jones.
Yeah, OJ is definitely the cheaper one there. With Gronk, it's one of those things where I know the talent there, and I know the rapport, and I know Brady. One of the biggest things with Brady is rapport. That's why, just jokingly, I saw those, Ronald Jones going out for passes and dropping 2 balls right off the hands from Brady, and everyone's joking to say, well, he's off the draft board now. He's really going straight to the bench. But with Gronk, it's one of those things where it's hard as a Pats fan to pass up on him. If he falls far enough, I'll take him. But if he ends up going like the 10th, I'll just wait and go take OJ.
And just as a reminder, so Frankie took Deontay Johnson, I took Mecole Hardman, so I did. You took the guy that I probably would have taken here.
Yeah, Vitali.
And then I just decided I had to, if I want to continue my Chiefs stack, I had to lock in Mecole Hardman. Or as a reminder to our audience, as for our new best ball format, we are cutting off after the 10th round to make this video a little easier to be consumed for you guys. So we are finishing up the 7th round at the moment. So you guys get a few more rounds of this, and then we'll rejoin you after the draft. We'll each give a quick snippet on our team. So, Frankie, was Deontay Johnson just your favorite upside pick on the board at that point, or are you trying to do a little, stacking with that Steelers team, and just you missed on Juju? You're trying to grab Ebron and Deontay or something.
No, I thought he was one of the better values there. Values, talents is the better word.
I don't know if you can describe him as value in the 7th anymore.
No, but once Vitali brought him up, I thought that he would be, since I realized I didn't have 3 wide receivers, probably a good fit for my team. And since he didn't take him, that kind of made the choice very easy.
Sure.
And now I have 3 receivers, 3 running backs, and now I can kind of go where I want for the rest of the draft. My quarterback is locked in, so I think I'm in a pretty good position.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind too is because we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't directly addressed it. If you're doing best ball, you need to keep roster construction in mind as you're going through. You can't just blindly pick, because then you're not going to end up with a team that is going to put you in a position to win, especially if you're in tournaments. If you're doing a cash league in best ball where the top 3 get money or something, and you're playing against 11 other people, you can kind of just play that redraft where you don't have to set lineups, where you draft that like you would your regular redraft team. But for tournament best ball, you do have to focus more on playing it a little bit more like DFS, where you have to try and chase the upside over everything else, because you're not just trying to win your specific 12-man league that you're in. You're trying to win that 12-man league and then go into a pool of everyone else who won their 12-man leagues to try and beat them for that massive prize at the end of the season. And you do that by chasing all of that crazy upside that you can get. So right here, for example, I am going to go ahead and take Marlon Mack just to keep deepening my running back position. But that's kind of what I'm talking about with roster construction, where it's I obviously went tight end and quarterback obscenely early, but I also got 2 of the most productive guys in the game. So I'm probably not going to go quarterback or tight end again until maybe 12th round, 13th round, because I used those early picks on a tight end and a quarterback. I now am obligated to use the rest of my middle round picks on running back and wide receiver to ensure that I have enough positional depth at those spots that my stack can actually do work and carry me through through the rest of the season. So you don't want to forego one position at the expense of the other, unless you're maybe talking about tight end. Tight end's pretty much the only spot I think where you could really make the case for just punting it entirely, and maybe you take 4 crap bag tight ends in the last 4 rounds of the draft, and you end up Irv Smith Jr., O.J. Howard, Chase Sternberger, and Gerald Everett or something. You just hope that one of those 4 gets you a touchdown every week,
Yeah, that's usually my strategy, unless I can get a good value on a mid-round tight end like a Waller and Ingram. Yeah. Those kinds of guys have interest to me. And if I'm deciding to go for that early tight ends play, then usually back of the second I'll shoot for Kittle or Kelsey. But most of the time I'm going for that late round, just who's on a decent offense that can just fall in for a touchdown.
Sure. And that is one other advantage too, because I think in best ball, the difference maker tight ends, there's so much more value to them in best ball than there is in other formats, just because that they're going to be tight ends who basically week in, week out are going to go out there and get you good to great points. And also, when you draft them, you're also opening up your roster, because now you're not drafting 3 or 4 tight ends, you're drafting 2. So that is something that sort of a hidden benefit, I guess, of drafting one of those 2 big tight ends in best ball is it does allow you to have a little bit more freedom to build your roster deep at running back and wide receiver, because you do get those extra roster spots, so to speak.
Yeah, I am going to be here in the ninth revving up those carry-on trains and taking my first share of carry-on Johnson all year.
Fair.
At this point, with the injury to Swift, we don't know what it is, and I mean, he could be a starter. I'm getting in the ninth round.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it too with the other guys who, I mean, Damian Williams obviously opted out, but before he opted out, we were talking about Damian Williams. We're still talking about with Marlon Mack. He is still the incumbent. He is still the starter from last year in that system in a year where the rookies haven't got as much time to spin up in their systems. So it's not other possibility that you still get 4 or 5 good weeks out of carry on before Swift takes over the job.
Yeah, he could be a very good Marlon Mack comp where he could win you your first 3 or 4 games, which in redraft is huge. And then you could ship him away when you start hearing that Swift might be coming back or start eating into his role as the starter to somebody who's losing and needs those points. And then you get back something that you could stash on your bench, like some injured player or a player who's one of these rookies that might need time to blossom.
Well, winning early weeks is even more important in best ball too, especially in the best ball tournament formats like the Best Ball Mania is. The opening round, where you're facing off against your specific league here, not as against the tournament as a whole, is only weeks 1 through 13. So unlike fantasy football, where you have it's still the finals in fantasy football, but where you have the full 16 weeks, in this you only have 13 weeks to just straight up win your league. It's not qualifying for the finals; it's win your league to move on, basically. So I mean, you really need to sort of shoot for the moon and put in as much early work as you can. A lot of that could be grabbing a guy like Carry On, where maybe he completely loses value after week 4. But maybe before week 4, he helped you get 4 wins. I'll never turn that down. All right, so we're in the 10th round now. It's going to be our last salvo of picks here. It's going to be me, Frankie, and then Vitalia. What do you best case scenario in this round? Who are you guys taking? What are your pie in the sky picks to here?
I'm pretty much just looking at my roster right now and deciding whether I want to go for a tight end now or just wait a little bit longer and then kind of blanket it late. It's kind of whatever falls to me at this point because I still am 4 picks away.
I've got depth at both positions right now. I still need my quarterback, but there's plenty of guys I like with upside later. And now that we're in double digits, those guys like Brady and Roethlisberger, and if I want to go even later on it and take like a Joe Burrow, those are the quarterbacks I'm looking at where I'm taking, because I took Waller, as you were talking about. When you take a guy that has starter value every week at tight end, you can now open yourself up to just taking more dart throws at a different position, which is why I like doing. I don't as much like doing the high quarterback and high tight end. I like to do either or, because then you can use that position as an anchor to then use dart throws at the other position, so you're not doing it in both.
I generally don't do that either. Him up.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take a guy I had last year, John Brown.
You're still not taking a tight end then?
No, I'm going to wait a little bit longer, probably maybe either next round or the round after. There are a lot of guys I like late, so I'm just going to lock up my 5th wide receiver and probably be done with that for a little while.
All right, Vitaly, you're about to come up here on the clock. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, I know exactly. I got to see who this guy takes, because honestly, if Latavius Murray gets to me, it's going to be really hard for me to pass up him in the 10th to really round out that running back position for me. Just because he is one of the most valuable backups in the league.
Yeah.
And he is standalone value, as we've seen multiple years in a row. I want Tom Brady here, and I'm worried because there's a guy who's going to get 2 picks before me that has no quarterback yet, and Tom Brady's sitting at the top.
So one thing you have, if you're chasing stacks in best ball, you sort of have to reach on the players in those stacks sometimes to close them out, because you lose a lot of correlated value if you lose out on the stack, and then it kind of invalidates what you were trying to do.
So I just saw him getting 2 picks back to back. I'd rather gamble on Latavius than gamble on Brady there.
Yeah.
So just the amount of opportunity for them to take running backs. This guy, I mean, if I'm this guy right here, yeah, Alexander Madison, I would take 2 running backs because he only had 2 running backs. This guy here at the end, and he went Hawkinson. But
interesting. All right, well, that'll bring us through the 10th round, so we're going to cut it here, and we'll rejoin you all after this draft is finished. We'll give you guys some closing thoughts on our teams, and yeah, we'll see you guys in about 8 rounds. All right, we just finished up our draft. I'm not feeling too upset about how my team came out. It's not as solid as I typically like them, but I've got a good base running back core for me. A lot of upside at wide receiver outside of Cooper Kupp, which I can live with because I drafted 8 of them. So I hope that between the 8 guys I drafted, I'm going to end up with at least a handful of good starting options every week. And then obviously I have Kittle and Mahomes anchoring my QB, and then Garoppolo and Everett backing up my QB, so a nice little mini stack with Garoppolo and Kittle, and then obviously I have Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mecole Hardman, and Sammy Watkins for my Chiefs stack. So I like this team. This team is a very could win it all or could come in last place team.
Yeah, I went with a little more of a conservative team, but I was happy with getting the 3 running backs I did off the back with Zeke, Gurley, and Melvin Gordon. Melvin being definitely just a great steal in the back there, and having Tyler Lockett and Chris Godwin at the top of my wide receivers. I got some little mini stacks later in the things just to try and grab some of those in case, with like the Indy stack of Phillip Rivers, Jack Doyle, and Paris Campbell, and as well as getting that Burrow stack with Tyler Boyd and John Ross. So
I think the only thing I don't like about your team is that you went very light at tight end. I don't feel like you have anybody that's strong enough at tight end to carry the position to warrant only having 2. But I know you also did close miss on a few other guys that you were looking at that position, so that was a little bit of bad luck for you, I feel like, as to why you only have 2.
Yeah, I'm not super happy about my team, but I'm not really mad about it either. I didn't end up with the Dallas super stack because I missed out on Gallup and Jarwin, but I did end up getting Drew Lock later to pair with Sutton and Font, which I really actually like more than my Dallas stack that I have right now. So, I mean, I think those first 3 running backs I took in Henry, Jones, and Ingram, I'm happy with that as like my core. With a couple of later guys, Damian Harris, Kerryon Johnson, with the news that Swift's going to be out, he is going to be the starter at this point. He might not be the guy who's going to be slotted in every week as a best of the week, but I'm not really mad about it.
No, I think you're good. I think you have a pretty good team there, Frankie. I definitely wouldn't be mad about yours. As with Vitali's, I probably would have gone 1 deeper at tight end and drafted 1 less at wide receivers. You do have 8 wide receivers, and your top tight end is Noah Fant. So like you have a legitimate chance of having Noah Fant and Eric Ebron where you could have no one at tight end. Yeah. But overall, I think your team has a lot of studs on it. I wouldn't be mad about having your team. Well, any other closing thoughts for you guys? If not, I think that'll wrap it for us this week.
Yeah, the only thing I think of when I'm looking through the first few rounds that were real head scratchers or just surprises to me is, 1, the Juju making it into the second round and Dalvin Cook falling all the way to 7. Those are my only 2, but they're minor surprises. But it's interesting to see how the ADP changes as we get close to the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, well, that'll do it for us this week. Look forward to our favorite late round picks coming out coming out Tuesday. We'll be filming that one tomorrow. And then we'll bring you another mock draft episode later next week. So tune in then. We're looking forward to joining you guys for some more fantasy football fun as the season closes in.
It's very close.